Hello, everybody. MegaZardX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting episode on Zara's Thoughts. Now, recently, oh my gosh, it's crazy to think that in that Switch 2 Direct, we actually managed to get an announcement of another Zelda game. A lot of people were thinking, could we gotten Wind Waker? Could we gotten Twilight Princess? Like people wanted and rave it on the Switch for the longest time. They wanted one of those games. And we did not get that, even though we did get Wind Waker thanks to the GameCube classics and all of that, though. But I digress. No, it wasn't anything that most people might have been expecting, or even a 2D Zelda at that point, even if it was like a remake or something of like the Oracle games or something. But nah, it was one of those crossover games with made in collaboration with Koei Tecmo, and every time I see them, you know, and everybody else in the room always knows what that might possibly be. Some kind of style of a Warriors game. But then once we saw the Zelda characters and the environments and stuff, like we know that that was all Hyrule and stuff. Then we all knew, hey, they're making another Warrior style games though. So another game kind of like Age of Calamity or whatever though. Now we're getting one during the Imprison War. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is actually really cool because if you think about it in Tears of the Kingdom, they keep referring to this war that was fought in prior to the events of obviously Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and we just never really got to see too much of it. Like we heard a lot of things about it, but we didn't get to see a lot of it. And it's kind of the same avenue, like with the events that happened prior to Breath of the Wild by just a little bit. Like, and then obviously they try to make Age of Calamity, and for the most part, it's canon for the most part. But there's like one little twist up in it that kind of doesn't make it 100%. So I consider it like almost like a 75% canon or whatever, though. But at least in Nintendo's own wordage, in terms of like their summary of this game, it's saying it's a canonical title, though. So this should basically fill in all the different gaps that we have in the events prior to Tears of the Kingdom in this one, though. 'Cause the thing that always kind of rubbed me off the wrong way was the fact that every time you challenge one of those bosses, they gave you like a little bit of allusion to a story of something that happened in the past, and they told that thing over and over and over. I was like, oh come on! I was like, come on, you got to give us a little bit more of the lore, the backstory up on this thing, though. So now I'm finally glad we're going to be able to see all of this play out. And if you pay good attention, this is another game that's technically focused and starred all around Zelda, because technically Link should not be playable in this version of the game because Link is in the present, Zelda's all the way back in the past now. So this one should be primarily focused around her, but then all the different playable characters should be, all of those different dudes and stuff that we saw in the past through the memories and all of that, though. So that's just really cool to see all of that stuff play out. So, I was looking at everybody that was kind of shown off in one of those shots, and it looks like it should be upwards close to almost 10 playable characters. But don't get me wrong, they're gonna find a way to squeeze Link up in here some way, even if it's the dude's old, super old great grandpa or something like that, representing Lincoln spirit. I don't know. But yeah, regardless though, that's gonna be really cool to see another Warriors game, and with it being on the Switch too, and it having that extra bit of horsepower and stuff, thanks to all of that NVIDIA greatness that's behind that Switch 2 that's making all of the 4K 60 shoot, even the 1080, 120 FPS if you're switching that mess over to performance mode on certain games, depending on what's featured and stuff. That's going to be great because if you look at certain games like Age of Calamity originally on the Switch, that mess during some moments ran like hot doo-doo. I still love the game, don't get me wrong, but like some of the performance up in that game was spotty at best. And you can say that with a plethora of different Switch games though, but that one, like that's like one of the first few that always comes to my mind. Like if the Switch 2 can naturally just improve things across the board, even if games don't get a dedicated patch where to be free or the $10 or the $20 upgrade. I'm hoping that it at least fixes some of that though. But with it being on the Switch 2, we should not have any performance issues on this game though. So it should be a strong delight to play this from start to finish though. So I'm like, that's really cool. I didn't necessarily have a Zelda game with another Warrior style like experience on my bingo card list while I was watching this Nintendo Direct, but it is pleasing to see nonetheless though, because we know Nintendo at this point, they like to put out some kind of a Zelda game every single year. So I was just trying to figure it out. I was like, what were they gonna actually manage to pull out? Because I was kind of scratching my head for a moment though, because I was like, I know they're gonna put out something though. But yeah, they did say that this is going to be coming out, and it is scheduled to come out in 2025, but we don't have like a calendar release date for it yet. So I'm thinking with all the different Switch 2 games they managed to like slate out for what has a window of 2025, they're averaging about one Switch/Switch 2 game every single month. So I'm thinking it might be kind of close to the holiday, but I don't think it'll be in November because I think that's when Pokemon Legends EA will come out. So I'm saying they're gonna probably try to squeeze it out 1 month earlier. Maybe they're gonna be shooting for the month of October at some point though. But yeah, y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below. What do you think about this new title for Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment? Which, you know, with it being a canonical title and stuff, it should stay very one-to-one. We get to see more action from Ganondorf, which I thought Ganondorf, with all the voice acting and stuff in this game, I thought he was pretty cool in Tears of the Kingdom. So he got to be that much better, at least in, you know, in this one version of the game back all the way in the distant past, though. But yeah, that's gonna basically do it in terms of this one episode of Czar's Thoughts. So remember, y'all, until our video I made next. See y'all.